Okay, be going live just in a minute here. We're going to see if get a few people to join in on the live broadcast so we can. We don't want anybody to miss any of this information on Tropical Storm Debby, now Tropical Storm. Made landfall last night in the Big Bend region of Florida, near the Steinhatchee area. I heard some other pages call it Steinhatchee. Us Floridians call it Steinhatchee. So if you're watching, go ahead and leave a like on the video if you like the video, or share with friends. Let's get this information out to the people that are affected by these storms. It's not just Florida that gets affected, obviously. So I know a lot of people that watch the page are down there, but please go ahead and share with friends. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and leave a comment. Share with friends, like the video. Let's get this information out to people who need it. Alright, we're going to start in just a minute. We're just waiting on a few more folks to join in. So, again, I don't want anybody to miss some important information on Debby out there. We'll be starting up soon. Okay, let's go ahead and get the broadcast started for today. We'll bring down the music. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the Bearded Weatherman. If you are new to this page, you're watching out there and you're new to the page, I am a former Navy meteorologist. Part of my responsibilities at the Weather Center in Norfolk were to watch ships at sea. We would route them around bad weather. We forecasted for bases here in the U.S. and Europe, and we handle tropical meteorology as part of our responsibilities in the tropical Atlantic. So definitely have experience with tropical meteorology and many different types of meteorology, including severe weather, which we're going to talk about in association with Debby. So here is the live radar picture right now. You can see a ragged center to this storm, but maintaining some consistency with this core, so that could have ramifications for the forecast track, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. As of right now, we do have tornado watches that are in effect for the southeast. This is our latest from the National Weather Service. Let's get a sense of those watches now. Of course, the page is going to freeze on me now that I'm looking at it. But here we go. So you can see this tornado watch here is associated with Debby. We have this watch number 599. It is valid until 1 a.m. Eastern time this evening, and we normally see some kind of tornado watch, some brief tornadoes associated with tropical systems, especially in that northeastern quadrant, that east side of the storm, also known as the dirty side of the storm. So we are continuing to monitor that. I don't see any warnings right now that are active, any tornado warnings. There was one here in Savannah that expired, it looks like, just a little while ago. As you see, it's gone now. So we're continuing to monitor that. We have flash flood warnings out. This is, let's see what we got here, in effect for until 9:45 Eastern for Baker, Columbia, Eastern Hamilton, North Central Union, South Central Charlton, Southeastern Clinch, Southeastern Eccles, and South Central Ware counties. It should be both Florida and North Florida and southeastern Georgia here. So we're continuing to monitor that. Between 6 and 12 inches have already fallen, and so flash flooding is already ongoing and expected to continue. So that is a flash flood warning that is in effect right now. We have some marine warnings here offshore, of course, associated with Debby. And we'll zoom in here and just get a sense of this core of the storm that's going to really govern how much strengthening is going to occur over the Atlantic if this storm does indeed move offshore. That we'll look at the forecast track in just a second. But the more this core can maintain its integrity, the more likely it is this storm. We'll just get a 3D view here of the center of this storm. You can see some wrapping here around the core. Most of course, the stronger weather is off to the east here. And we're seeing, let's see if we can zoom in. We see a few thunderstorms associated with Debby. And zoom out, zoom in. over here on the eastern side of the storm. You can see some updrafts here associated with the convection associated with the thunderstorm activity that is on the east side of this storm currently. And that's where most of the strength of this storm has been as of now. So we're continuing to watch that on radar. And the flash flood warnings that are going out. We have a flash flood warning up here for a lot of, this is the NWS in Charleston. And it looks like a lot of northeastern Georgia and some of southeastern South Carolina covered by this flash flood warning. So far 4 to 6 inches have fallen with locally higher amounts. 2.5 to 5 inches have already fallen so far, and then additional forecasted amounts of 4 to 6 inches. So that is going to definitely be a concern, especially in more flood-prone areas, creeks, streams, rivers, urban areas, as you see, highways, streets, and underpasses. So this is definitely a, as it says, life-threatening situation, flash flooding occurring already, and that's what we've been talking about in relation to this storm for the last few days. Levi says, I think it's over. Well, it might be over now because the storm's passed away from the area. It definitely passed further east than was the original, within that original forecast cone. And I always say, don't look at the dead center of that track. Definitely pay attention more to the cone itself. And there's going to be changes in the forecast. It's just inevitable. Weather's uncertain. So, but if it does move back on shore, impacts could be felt back here in Waycross where Levi is, I think. So continue to monitor this storm, Levi, and people in southern Georgia should definitely continue to watch this storm. All right, so that's the latest radar. Let's go ahead and look at the latest power outage information we have here. This is live right here, updating. Let's see, last updated. Let's see if we can get a little bit more current. And you see 160,000 customers without power in the state of Florida, about 30,000 in Georgia so far, but expect this number to climb, and especially throughout the southeast here as Debby continues to impact the southeast. Unfortunately, there have been reports of fatalities already associated with Debby, so continue to watch this storm, continue to monitor the progress of it, as the southeast is definitely not out of the woods yet when it comes to this storm. Taking a look at the latest observations out there, and we see these red numbers are the gusts, wind gusts here, and you see, looking up a little bit further north here, let this update, some stronger wind gusts along the coast especially. Here's a gust of 29 miles per hour, 28, so 32 inland here. These gusts, let's see, 33 out of the northeast, as you see the circulation center right about in here with these winds that are flowing around it in a counterclockwise direction, right? So we're seeing the core's about right there according to SIRS observations, and we do see those stronger wind fields out away from the storm so far as we've seen. So Debby, a little unorganized, has weakened obviously as it moves onto land, but as to what the track will eventually be, and we're still in a wait and see mode on that, and we're going to take a look at the forecast now as far as that's concerned. So here's the latest 5 p.m. advisory Eastern from the National Hurricane Center. This forecast cone has shifted a bit offshore, which would give this system time out over water. If we take a look at some of the buoy readings here, get in closer here. So the water temperature at 83 degrees offshore there, closer to the Gulf Stream. So very warm water out there. This doesn't give me a buoy. That's way offshore. We don't worry about that. But the difference is going to be, and here's the cone, and you can see that. Let's see if we can. give me the option to go full screen on this. Let me zoom in a bit. But the difference is going to be, you see this, this is the continental shelf here. And so the waters in towards the shore are a little bit cooler right now. So if it moves a little bit further offshore, more towards that right side of the cone, over the Gulf Stream, which is that current of warm water that flows to the north, east here along the southeast, along coast of Florida, that would pick up more strength in that scenario. There's not much wind shear to deal with for this storm, so it's going to be really a question of how close in will this storm go. Will it in fact actually go offshore? There are some models taking it over land still, so we'll look at those in a moment, but that's going to be the question, is what kind of water temperatures this system is going to encounter. Some of that onshore flow has already caused some upwelling, which is what happens when the winds blow over the surface of the ocean. Here's the ocean, something like that, right? And it pushes aside water, which allows cooler water from below, it's called the mixed layer depth, to come up and replace that warmer water at the surface. That's called upwelling, and that happens with stronger winds, especially associated with tropical systems. So in closer to shore, you're definitely going to see more of the cooler water associated with Debby, especially as it pushes more toward the northeast. And so it'll really be a question of how much time and how far offshore this system will eventually go, and that'll really determine whether or not we're going to get re-strengthening back into that hurricane force, potentially, or strong tropical storm force level. So that's what we're watching and monitoring now. So back to the forecast again, you can see they do have it moving offshore a little ways. Again, potentially if it goes a little bit further, that would mean a little bit more strengthening, and then it'll be a question of, well, is it going to move back onshore, or maybe stay a little offshore still? I mean, there's still a lot of questions. The models, there's still pretty good spread in the models as far as that's concerned. And you do see tropical storm warnings in effect for a lot of the southeast here. Tropical storm watch in effect for further north up towards North Carolina, the border of South Carolina, North Carolina up there. So those warnings are in effect, and watches. So continue to monitor this storm for sure. National Hurricane Center's latest discussion did say that the potential is there for that their intensity forecast, the forecast of the strength of the storm at maybe out here towards mid to late week here, could be a little conservative. So again, we may see additional re-strengthening and potentially even a hurricane again before this system potentially moves onshore. That's the forecast right now. Let's take a look at some of the latest models here. So here we go. Again, you see some clustering offshore here, some a little bit further offshore, and then you see this cone here. A lot of the models clustering on that potential South Carolina landfall again. That's the kind of the center of the track right now, as you see, where those models cluster. So that is the highest probability according to based on the model data for the eventual track of the storm. So that's what you see here. We're not really seeing much in the modeling for staying offshore, so hope that is unfortunate for the Carolinas. But regardless of the eventual track, this storm's major hazards are going to be rainfall. Flash flooding, major flooding is definitely the biggest impact that we've been continuing to discuss. High chance for all of these areas. We've already seen, as I said, 3 to 5 inches in some areas, more for some areas, and flash flooding is definitely going to be a problem, especially rivers, again, in street flooding, things like that, creeks, all of those things, very flood-prone areas. So that's the area that we're continuing to watch, and then we do see the moderate chances still in effect for much of the southeast here. Tampa got a lot of rainfall yesterday. There were areas that were flooded for sure. So there were some water rescues performed. So that definitely, just an offshore tropical storm at that point could cause all that flooding. So this is a very wet storm. It's a slow mover. and therefore we are not out of the woods, and this is going to be the biggest problem. Again, is going to be that flooding and rainfall, and as you see here, upwards of now 20 to 30 inches forecasted for the South Carolina coast and Charleston's very vulnerable to flooding, so expect to see major impacts there as we go forward in time with this storm. Okay, take a look at some model data here, get an idea of timing. We'll look at the American model first for potentially the timing of this storm and the impacts. This is old. I gotta refresh this. Yep, there we go. Okay, there is Debby now, 992 millibars according to the GFS. Let's see how close that is to the actual central pressure. Let's go back. So 994, pretty close to what the GFS forecasted. So models handling it pretty well. And as you see, GFS takes it offshore, and then a real quick recurve back in with not too much strengthening according to the GFS. Now this is a weird wobble here it's showing. So in other words, it's showing kind of a ragged center of circulation back, more wobbling, and then continuing to hang out through late in the week, which again would be a problem for rainfall. Let's see what the Euro's saying here. Euro takes it a little bit more offshore. As you can see, the central pressure is falling here, which of course would be an indication of strengthening, and that is the Euro's guidance right now is taking it a bit more offshore. So the Euro taking it a little bit more to the right a lot more to the right if you think about it in terms of scale than the GFS right now. And so hanging out over the water for potentially a day or so. Let's see how long. It's a day. Yep, full day. And then back on shore here in South Carolina making landfall again. So that's the Euro guidance. Let's take a look at some of the hurricane models, see what they're predicting. Start with the HAFS-B here. Here is Debby, ragged looking core to the storm, but still some center to it. Again, that's going to be the question, is how much that core of the storm will maintain its integrity. And we are offshore here, and again you see this kind of ragged looking shape to the center of the storm. So the HAFS-B not too aggressive with the strength of this storm. Let's see what the HWAR is saying. Again, these models do initialize off of the American guidance, if you weren't aware, and so you see they're taking it a little bit further or a little bit closer to shore, like the American GFS guidance. So that'll be the question as to which model eventually is a little bit more correct. It's rightward is the Euro, and leftward is the American guidance right now. So that's really the question that we're going to continue to watch, is what will that eventually be, and as far as that track will eventually be, I should say, and as far as the steering flow here, I think I gotta switch over. Okay, let's switch over to the southeast. There it is. Okay, so let's take this back to current time frame. We're going to look at the steering flow. Let's see. And then this gives you the vorticity of the storm. So this is where most of the rising air would be. The vorticity is a measurement of that. Rising air currents. And you see, that's 500. 250. Okay. So the 250 millibar, this is what's going to be, these are those steering winds that are going to guide this storm. And you see a little bit of troughing over here, moving in. You see that ridging it's forecast to kind of stall it out a little bit in here. So that's what system moved through that weakness in the two ridges here over Texas and the subtropical ridge over here, and that is going to definitely determine what the eventual track will be. So let's go forward in time. So pretty weak steering winds here in the upper levels for this system, as you see here, and so therefore it is forecasted again to kind of stall a little bit, move slowly. It's moving very slowly right now, and then continue to meander. And then the question will be what kind of influence this trough has up here on the eventual track of the storm. So that's what we're going to continue to monitor. I believe the effect of the trough, with the GFS, is a little bit more pronounced. Yeah, that short wave, and then this ridging in here builds in a little bit more with the American is in the forecast. As you can see, the moving only very slowly at 6 miles per hour, and here we are Monday, and here we are tomorrow, and then this storm offshore is still going to be producing rain in these areas. So again, a few days up through later in the week of rainfall for these areas, and again, that's why definitely flooding will be the major concern with Debby. Okay. Well, if there's basically that's all the information I have to share today on Debby. Let's look at the rest of the tropics. We do have a system out there that we're watching right now for possible development. Here it is right here. So 30% over the next 7 days. So this system's forecasted to move slowly over the Caribbean and into this area over here, the Western Caribbean. And of course, conditions will be more favorable over there. Very warm water, a little bit less wind shear than we're seeing down in the Caribbean right now. And so that's really going to be something to watch for, especially areas of the Gulf Coast and Texas, Mexico, the Yucatan in here, Cancun, the resort areas. These are all interests that should be monitoring this storm. Let's look at the latest on the models. So here's the American guidance. There's our wave right there. There's the wave axis. And we'll keep watching it over here. And it takes it up a little bit to the northwest there, maybe into the Bay of Campeche. But not much development forecasted by the GFS as of yet. So not much. And again, that's why when we look at the Euro real quick. Here's our wave over here approaching the Windward Islands, bringing some rainfall to them. And not a whole lot either from the Euro. So that's why the National Hurricane Center at this point is keeping those chances low. But we'll keep watching. We also know that getting into that mid to late August time frame, the conditions are very favorable out there for development. That's historically the time when we get the most activity. As I've shown you many times with those graphics on climatology, this is the time of year going into late August, going into early September when